Hello, dear students. Welcome back to our news channel. Students, in today's episode, we are diving into an important topic about borders, peace, diplomacy between two giant neighbors, India and China. And this isn't just any ordinary border story, it's about the line of actual control, okay, or LAC, line of actual control, or LAC. LAC is basically a place where India and China meet but don't always agree on where the line should be. So we'll explore what's happening right now and why it's happening and what it could mean for the future. So let's get started. First, students, what exactly is the LAC? राइट, क्वेश्चन तो यही है कि आखिरकार एलएसी है क्या? यस स्टूडेंट्स, आप इस इमेज को भी देख पा रहे होंगे. यस, इमेजिन टू पीपल स्टैंडिंग ऑन आइदर साइड ऑफ अ रोप. एक रोप है, उसके दोनों तरफ लोग खड़े हैं. नाउ दे बोथ थिंक द रोप should be in slightly different places, but they decide to keep it where it is for now as a temporary boundary. That's the line of actual control, the temporary boundary between the India and China. All right. अब अगर आप इसको देखें, yes, ये देखो, line of actual control. Now, unlike clear borders between many countries, the LAC isn't always agreed upon, which sometimes, leads to misunderstandings and even conflicts. And that's what we were actually seeing for the past 2 to 3 years. Okay. So, what happened? This all started in the year 2020. क्या हुआ था 2020 में? Things heated up at the LAC. इस LAC जो बाउंड्री है, आप देख रहे होंगे, ये जो LAC लाइन बाउंड्री है बिटवीन इंडिया एंड चाइना. ओके, तो ये वाला जो रीजन है, यस, दिस रीजन, इट्स कॉल्ड अस्काइचेन, एंड दिस इज you can say it's occupied by Chinese army. Okay, so this area is occupied by China, right? And then we have this POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir, right? And this is LOC, line control between Pakistan and India, and this is LAC, line of actual control between India and China. Okay, so 2020 में क्या हुआ था? Back in 2020, like I said, things heated up at the LAC, and India and Chinese troops, it was a kind of face off in the high mountains of these eastern Ladakh, and the two countries, they had set up camps and even built some small structures. Unfortunately, this led to clashes, and in these clashes, some soldiers got hurt and some even lost their lives. Since then, both India and China have been trying to avoid such confrontations, but it hasn't been easy. Now, both armies have stationed many soldiers along the LAC. LAC के तरफ चाइना ने यहाँ पे अपने सोल्जर्स खड़े कर रखे हैं, इंडिया ने हमारे सोल्जर्स यहाँ पे हैं. तो you can think of it as a massive line of defense, with each side watching the other. And the soldiers on the each side of the border, they are on high alert to make sure neither side crosses the line. And this situation, however, isn't ideal. It क्योंकि आप देख सकते हो ना कि यहाँ पर इंडियन सोल्जर्स को निगरानी रखनी पड़ती है कि कोई चाइनीज सोल्जर ना क्रॉस कर जाए, वैसे ही चाइनीज सोल्जर निगरानी रखते होंगे कि कोई इंडियन सोल्जर वहां पे ना आ जाए. And keeping soldiers there costs a lot of money and effort. And there's always a risk of small misunderstandings turning into big problems. ये कुछ भी हो सकता है कि अगर थोड़ा सा मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग हो जाए तो एक क्लैश हो सकता है, और उसमें हमारे वीर सेनानी जो हैं, हमारे वी ब्रेव सोल्जर्स हैं, जो हमेशा हमारी निगरानी के लिए खड़े रहते हैं. यू कैन इमेजिन देयर सिचुएशन कि लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल में उन्हें किस तरह पहरेदारी देनी रहती होगी, और अगर थोड़ा सा भी कुछ स्कमिश हुआ, इट कैन लीड इनटू अ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट, राइट, अ ब्रेकआउट ऑफ वॉर. तो कितनी ज्यादा वहां पर क्रिटिकल सिचुएशन बनी रहती है. एंड दीज थिंग्स इट रिक्वायर्स लॉट ऑफ मनी एंड एफर्ट्स. सो व्हाट्स हैपनिंग नाउ, अभी क्या हो रहा है? सी स्टूडेंट्स, just last week, on October 21, India's foreign secretary, okay, India के जो foreign secretary हैं, they announced a new agreement with China to help calm things down along the LAC, okay. And this new agreement, it basically it focused on two major points of tension. कौन से दो major points हैं? Depsang and Demchok. Yes. This is Depsang. आप देख पा रहे होंगे. Yes, this is Depsang and this is Demchok. Right? So the new agreement, it focused on two major points of tension, Depsang and Demchok. They all comes in eastern part of Ladakh. So the aim is to have both armies pull back their troops and remove temporary structures by October 29. And after that, the soldiers can patrol the area again, but in a way that avoids direct face off. To direct face off wo na ho. So the goal is to bring stability to these regions and prevent any future confrontations. So it's a bit like two people decided to step back and take a breather and then walk along the rope with a caution, making sure they don't accidentally step into each other's space. So this agreement was reached after a series of talks, not just between military leaders, but also through diplomatic and political channels. Uh, and the goal was to make sure everyone was on the same page कि हम सब एक पेज पर है. So the thing is, which this article also deals, is challenges on the ground. What are the challenges? See, you can imagine what it's like for these soldiers who are patrolling there on the ground. And since 2020, both India and China have been building infrastructure. Infrastructure kaun se? Roads, camps, and even weapons near the LAC. And this area is a high altitude where conditions are harsh and temperatures drop below freezing in winter. So imagine standing guard in the cold high up in the mountains with heavy equipment. It's tough. But these soldiers are well trained and prepared. But still, you can imagine their condition, right? So while the agreement helps reduce direct confrontation, it doesn't solve all the problems. Both sides have different views on where exactly the LSE should be, which sometimes causes tension, right? क्योंकि दोनों साइड को लगता है कि यहाँ से LSE होनी चाहिए, इंडिया को लगता है नहीं, थोड़ा और ईस्टर्न साइड से होना चाहिए. And this agreement, you can say, it's a step forward toward reducing misunderstandings, right? Besides Ladakh, ये तो हो गई लद्दाख की कहानी. अब लद्दाख के अलावा भी इंडिया और चाइना के बीच में जो आप कह सकते हो टेरिटोरियल डिस्प्यूट एक और रीजन है जो कि तवांग है, अरुणाचल प्रदेश का. So there's another area of concern, Arunachal Pradesh. And this state is located, we know that it's located in the northeastern India, and China also claims a part of it as its territory. And one specific area called Yangtze in Tawang, Tawang ka jo Yangtze region hai, it has seen a lot of patrol activity from both countries. And they recently reached an understanding here too, which means that Chinese patrols will continue, but they won't interfere with India's movement. In other words, both sides agreed to avoid any interference with each other's patrols, which is a positive sign. Now, students, let's talk about patrolling points or PPs. Right? Yes. Here you can see patrolling points along the LAC. See, think of these as checkpoints along the rope where Indian soldiers go to keep an eye on things. And there are 65 of these points from Karakoram in the north. यहाँ से शुरू होके जो पेट्रोलिंग पॉइंट्स है जहाँ पे चेक पॉइंट होते हैं वहां पर काराकोरम से लेकर टोटल 65 है एंड इट गोज ऑल द वे फ्रॉम नॉर्थ टू द ईस्टर्न एंड ऑफ लद्दाख. नॉर्थ से लेकर ईस्टर्न एंड ऑफ लद्दाख तक 65 पेट्रोलिंग पॉइंट्स हैं. However, some of these points are no longer accessible because they are now in buffer zones. So what's a buffer zone? It's a no patrol area set up between the two armies, and buffer zones were created in certain areas along the LAC to prevent any accidental confrontations. But here's the catch. Some experts are concerned that these zones mean India has effectively lost control over certain areas, and a tactic sometimes referred to as salami slicing, taking small pieces bit by bit without a big confrontation. ओके तो क्रिटिक्स क्या बोल रहे हैं कि ये जो बफर पॉइंट है ना, पहले जो इंडिया के बफर पॉइंट थे, पहले जो पेट्रोलिंग पॉइंट थे, अब ये बफर जोन में आ गए हैं. आप समझ रहे हो कि पहले जहां पे इंडियन सोल्जर्स पेट्रोलिंग करते थे, अब वो बफर जोन में आ गए. और बफर जोन क्या होता है? नो मैन लैंड. दोनों के इसमें से कोई भी क्लेम नहीं करता. तो एक तरीके से एलएसी कह रहे हैं कि इस तरफ शिफ्ट हो रही है. यस, लेफ्ट हैंड साइड में शिफ्ट हो रहा है, यानी कि इंडिया की तरफ और शिफ्ट हो रहा है. लेकिन कैसे? बिट बाय बिट, स्मॉल पीसेस ऑफ लैंड. ओके, एंड दिस tactic is sometimes referred to as salami slicing. Right? So, what's the plan for the future? As of now, both sides have agreed to continue talks, and the recent agreement specifically for Demchok and Depsang marks a step toward reducing tensions. And leaders from both countries also plan to meet and discuss more long-term solutions to these border issues. Okay, it's a bit like working out a peaceful solution by sitting down together rather than just letting things get heated. And these talks are meant to rebuild trust. And even the Indian Army chief recently shared that they are trying to slowly restore the trust between the two armies so that these buffer zones can one day be removed, allowing both sides to patrol as they did before. So why does this matter? हम लास्ट में हमेशा ये चीज के बारे में डिस्कस करते हैं कि आखिरकार हमें कैसे इफेक्ट हो सकता है. Right? You might wonder, why is this important? Well, a peaceful border means more resources can be used for things like schools, hospitals, technology, rather than on military expenses. It also means that the two biggest countries in Asia, they can focus on trade, climate change, and other important issues that impact everyone and not just those living near the border. Right? And okay, students, so let's hope that one day these two nations can find a way to manage their differences without needing troops stationed high up in the cold mountains. All right, students. So thank you for joining us on this journey to understand the line of actual control and the latest agreement between India and China. Keep learning, and until next time, stay curious and keep asking questions. Goodbye.